this video, I'm gonna show you how to improve your jazz vocabulary on the guitar. Se você me acompanha aqui no canal do YouTube e não entende inglês, você pode ajustar aqui no YouTube, nas configurações, para colocar legenda em português. I am also going to introduce you to the core fundamentals of the DNA of improvisation method. And the first thing you need to understand about the DNA of improvisation method is what I called TCI, where T means transcription, C means composition, and I mean, no, I'm kidding, the letter I means improvisation. In my point of view, these are the 3 stages of improvisation. Usually when a student comes to me, the question is always the same. I want to learn how to improvise. But improvisation is actually the final stage. Before someone can truly improvise, he first needs to learn how to compose within the jazz language. Not necessarily composing in real time, but creating solos beforehand. Only after that they can move into improvisation. But here's the problem. Before someone can compose a solo, they need references. Without references, they will most likely create random ideas that don't really make sense within the jazz language. So before composition comes transcription. So during the transcription phase, you will absorb the language directly from the solos of the musicians that you like and that you transcribe. By copying solos, learning jazz lines, analyzing ideas, you will gradually build the vocabulary that you need to develop your jazz language. Once you build enough vocabulary, then you move to the next stage, the composition. That's when you become capable of creating your own solos. But even then, you're not improvising yet. You're now able to create your own solos if you have time to think, but improvisation comes later. Once you reach the composition stage, it becomes a matter of time and repetition until you are able to reproduce the same thing in real time. Because, of course, at the end of the day, improvisation is nothing more than composition in real time. These are the fundamental principles behind my improvisation method, the DNA of improvisation. If you understand Portuguese, you can check out my full course, the DNA of improvisation. Of course, it's in Portuguese. I am a Brazilian guy. Clicking on the link below on the description of this video. But of course, if you don't speak Portuguese, but you are still interested in learning more about DNA of improvisation method, and which I will explain with more details throughout this video, you can leave me a comment below if you want to study with me privately. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Right off the bat, let's start with the T, transcription. So for this first stage, I propose 2 objectives. Objective number 1, small ideas. Objective number 2, complete solos. When I talk about small ideas, this is what I mean. For example, you will divide the neck of the guitar in 5 positions, and in each of this position you will have a chord, a reference chord that you are gonna use to memorize the ideas and to relate the ideas against the chords. So, for example, in the first position, I have this chord, reference chord, and I have, for example, one idea like this one. This is a small idea that I can relate to this chord shape, to this reference chord. For this second chord, I can relate an idea like this one. Okay, an enclosure to the root, and then I play the major third. This is a small idea for this chord shape. For this chord shape, for example, I can play one small idea like this one. This is very useful. Very useful. Okay? For this one, I can play, for example, okay? And for this, the last chord shape, I can play, for example, this one. Just a small idea. These small ideas, like this one, or this one, or this one, come from a concept that I call matrices. But what matrices are? Matrices are special licks, so to speak. Licks that comes from the language itself. There are small phrases, essential pieces of jazz vocabulary. Whenever you hear somebody truly improvising in the jazz language, they are using these small ideas, these small licks, these small matrices to build their solos. So these ideas need to be learned and connected to the reference chord in each position all over the neck of the guitar. So little by little, you start filling those positions with vocabulary and move through them more fluently. So the next step is to learn how to move to one position to the other. So now, which chords are the most important when it comes to learning those small ideas? Here is the three most important chords. The first one is the major chord, the next one is the minor 6 chord, and the last one is the diminished chord. Because once you know the small ideas over the major chord, you can immediately apply them over the relative minor chord. For example, C major chord, A minor 7th. And then you can transpose those ideas all over the neck. For example, if I have this chord in the key of C and I have this idea, I can transpose this idea to this chord in the key of E flat, for example. The same idea. And of course, if this idea works over this chord, which is E flat major chord, it will work as well over a C minor chord. The minor 6 chord, for example, in the key of C, relates to a half diminished chord, an altered chord, and a leading dominant chord as well. So for example, if I have a C minor 6 chord, I can relate it to an A half diminished chord, a B7 altered chord, and F7 leading dominant chord. And for the diminished chord, I will apply the diminished scale. And I can relate this chord as well to a dominant chord, 7th chord, half step down, half step below. Let me give you some examples over a major chord. So this is a C major chord, and I can play it ideas like first position. I'm connecting those small ideas. The second position, for example. Third position. Fourth position. Last position. Okay. Now let me give you some examples over a minor 6 chord applying the melodic minor ideas. So the first position here, for example, one small idea. For the next position, the second position. This is a very good one. Very good one as well. Now I'm connecting more ideas, more small ideas. Next position. some ideas for the diminished chord. First position. This is a very good one. That one as well. I can connect all of them. Here as well. Here. And here. All those ideas on the diminished scale are symmetrical. So if you learn in this position, you will learn in the other positions because the fingering is the same. So where do you find these ideas? By transcribing solos. For example, a long time ago, I have transcribed a solo, a Pat Martino solo on Days of Wine and Roses, and the first part of the solo, at the very beginning of the solo, he plays something like this. And I have learned that I could use this idea over this chord. And of course, if I have a nut situation in another song, for example, let's say G minor 7, I can play the same idea. And then, by learning these ideas and applying in another situation, and at the same chord or not, chord can be a chord substitution as well. You will increasing the amount of ideas that you learn. In my lessons, I help students to shortcut this process by showing them those ideas. And I teach them these matrices, which is our these small ideas that are in that are everywhere. And now, when you transcribe an entire solo, which is actually our second objective, you're not only learning individual ideas for individual chords, you're also learning how to tell a whole story, how to tell a musical story. By transcribing whole solos, you're learning how to do it, naturally, because you're learning the language. That's why I don't believe it's very effective if you're, just play over random harmony using scales. You put on a backing track, there's a harmony over a key center, and people randomly throw notes from a scale without really create any musical sense, musical meaning. I don't believe this is a very effective way to learn how to improvise. That's why I believe the best way is by transcribing. And also, I don't believe it's effective to try to create your own ideas before absorbing the language first. That's not how this works. First you absorb, then you create. Once you create an amount of massive vocabulary, then you are able to move to the next step, to the next stage, the stage C, which means the composition. That allows you to create much better. And once you're able to create your own solos, it's a matter of time until you're able to improvise, which means composition in real time. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.